Hi there, everyone. My name is Colette Jacobowitz, and I'm Mrs. J in the library. Today, I want to talk to you about your library website and some of the things that should be on an amazing, functional, useful library website. So I have a blog post that goes along with this video that you can check out, and in that blog post I have a free checklist that you can download so you can look through your existing library website, or if you're building your own, you can use this checklist to make sure that you have all of the essential elements that your library website is going to need. So first, there's three parts to this. The first part is the basics, the bare minimum, or as you might say, the minimum viable product. So minimum viable product, or MVP, is used in usually technology and website development to describe the barely functional product that you can put out there and you can publish and say, hey, to your customers or audience, what do you think of this? In our case, for school libraries and our websites, our audience is the community members, it's our students, and it's our staff that we are working with. So that's a lot of people that we are trying to provide resources for and try to meet their needs with this one website. So that is a big challenge. So we're going to start with the minimum viable product with the bare minimum basics, and then we'll move on to the sort of add-ons, the next level features that when you have time you can add on to your website. And then finally we'll end with the expert level extras. So those are things that are above and beyond. And by the way, if you are a first year librarian, I don't even want you to think about the expert level extras. Those are really for at least your second year of teaching. They're for updating your library website when you need to, or as you're able to, once you get to know what your students, staff, and community members need from you. So the beginner level basics are just to get you started and just to get a library website published and out there. So you might already have this. Even if you're new to the library or you're new to this position, there might already be a website that exists that you just need to get access to talk to your tech department about probably. And so I would say that the bare minimums, the minimum viable product, is really only two things. First, you need a link to your library catalog. Whether you use Destiny or Access It or any other catalog system, your students and staff and community members need a way to search what you have, even if that's only your print collection. So link to the catalog, or best case scenario, you have a search widget that your software provides for you and you can copy paste that into your website, wherever that is. Second thing you need is you need your contact information. I think this comes first and foremost. People need to know when they visit your library website that the library needs to be staffed and it needs to be run by professionals. Books don't shelve themselves. Neither, they don't check themselves in or out. They don't track themselves either. So it's important that you put your face, preferably a photo of you, a real life photo, but in a pinch, a Bitmoji avatar or something like that, that shows you are the one running the library. If you happen to have part-time or full-time staff, their names should also be on there, and if they're comfortable, their photos as well. You should also include email or phone numbers or any way to contact you. Now, if you're uncomfortable with a phone number or email address being published, then I would recommend making a Google form to link to. And making that Google form, there's a setting in Google Forms that you can have an email sent to you every single time you get a new contact request. However, this is something you need to test regularly. Technology changes all the time, so if that's the direction you want to go in, put something into your planner or your teaching schedule so that you're knowing that probably every other week you need to be checking that, if not every week. Just do a test message through that contact form, or ask a colleague to do it occasionally just to make sure it's working, because that really could go badly if someone tries to reach out to you, especially if they're upset or have a question, and you never get back to them because you don't know that they messaged you. So a way to contact you is essential: your photo, along with your contact information and your name, and a link to Destiny or whatever your catalog system is. That is your bare minimum viable product. So if you have that, and especially if you're a first year teacher, you are set and you're ready to go for the school year. Okay, so like take a deep breath. Okay, you did it. You have your website and it's set to go. Okay, so the next level though is adding in a page or links to your website that goes to the other resources you have. Okay, so that could be ebooks. If you have a separate ebooks platform, they're not in your catalog system, you should have a link to that. Things like your databases that you subscribe to. If you have a statewide consortium of that provides databases for your library, you should have a link to that. And you should also have a link to some popular research websites, such as National Geographic for Kids, or even ResearchWagon, or MyBib.com, Wonderopolis. All of these are really fantastic free resources, and of course some of them are ad supported. So you should check them out on your district network to make sure that they are not blocked. And yes, you should add those to your library website. And so that right there, those three things, and the first two being the most important, that is your bare minimum essentials. So really, those three things can get you a long, long way in creating your library website and designing it. So in the checklist, the two questions I have for you to ask yourself is, can a website visitor, whoever they are, search your library's online catalog within just 2 clicks? Can they click on a link to go to the catalog and search, or can they click their mouse in a search bar widget and then do a search immediately? And can a website visitor easily access your library's digital resources from the home page? That could be through a menu bar, a menu item, or a direct link on the home page. And then your contact information, is there a photo, preferably, or at least an avatar, and your name on the library homepage, if not on the contact page as well? And do you have a contact page or a contact form to get in touch with you directly? So my recommendation for contact is that I would provide my email address directly on the library website, and I provided my phone number with my extension. I was much more comfortable with someone emailing me and leaving me a voicemail message. And I even said on my contact page, you're going to have to leave a voicemail if it's during the day because I'm teaching full time. I think the more we mention that, I think the more we can set up realistic expectations for when parents could expect a phone call back. So now moving on to the next level features. These are things to add on as you have time. And you should make a goal of having these things by the end of your first year teaching if you're new to the position. And for librarians who are updating their website, if you don't have these things on your website, you really need them. So besides the online resources and contact page, that's the first 2 of these 6 essentials I'm talking about. This is number 3, 4, 5, and 6. So number 3 is a dedicated parent and community page. Now you might not think this is important. Like, wouldn't it be more important to have a teacher page, for instance, or a passwords document? And I'm getting to those in a minute. But I think your next page to create after you have your online resources and digital library set up, I think you need to make a community page next, because that is who is going to advocate for you. That's who you need to be talking to make sure your program isn't cut, to make sure your program is funded. That's how you're going to get volunteers. That's the page you refer parents to who want to donate. So you can actually see it as a time-saving exercise. You're creating a page that has all the information that parents are going to want to know. It answers the questions parents have, such as, when is my child's library day? How long can my child check out a book for? How many books can my child get? And what if I happen to have a stack of books at home? Can I bring them into the library? Those are common questions that you want to answer in a positive way for parents. And then community members as well should have access to that information. So my recommendations for this community page are a very short, and I do mean that, brief, concise explanation of what the library offers. This can be generic to just what a school library offers any community. Keep it short and sweet. Use simple sentences, about 5 or 6 sentences long. You're not going to talk about all the amazing things that you're doing. And I know you're doing incredible things in your library. You just want to talk about an overview. You want to talk about checkout and borrowing times, but I wouldn't use the word circulation. When you think about it, that's a very library-specific jargon term. So we want to remove all of that. You shouldn't be saying things like ILL. If anything, you want to spell out the word interlibrary loan, and even then I would explain what that is. Remember, the people that are reading and seeing this website are not librarians and they are non-educators, so they don't know what those terms mean. Keep that in mind when you're writing this page. So after a short explanation at the top and talking about checkout and borrowing times, you might also do a short explanation or list of the library policies, especially if they are universal across your district or school. You might have links to a board-approved collection policy if you have one. And these would be, again, just very simple links. Click here to see our board policy, and maybe you even have a 1 or 2 sentence explanation of how important it is to have a professional librarian making those decisions of what is purchased for the library. And then you get to the part that I think is so important, and you could even move this last section up a little if you wanted. Invite community members and parents to get involved. Invite them to donate to the library and have a list, either an Amazon wish list or a bookshop wish list that's pre-selected. The great thing is you can add things to this list throughout the year. So when a Mo Willems book breaks yet again, you can just add one to your wish list for the next time someone donates. Anytime someone asks, can I donate to the library or how can we support the library, you direct them to your wish list. Anytime a book is lost or damaged, if you don't want to replace that specific book, you can direct parents to the wish list and say, hey, you can just purchase something off of this. I don't care if the book you lost was $20 and this is $8, you're buying a book for the library. And so it gives parents some more flexibility. They can order online with a credit card and have it shipped to you, and it saves everybody a lot of time. So invite them to donate. You also want to invite parents to volunteer. If you run a book fair, or if you would love to have volunteers to help with shelving, ask them. Just provide that there, and then you can provide a link to that community page to your parent association, to anyone who's interested. You can just direct them to that link, and then they can take the next step. Along with that, give them links to the clearances that they're going to have to apply for. So make it super easy. Whatever's required in your local, state, or federal law, make sure you have links to that, and say, click here and click on volunteer. Bring your clearances into the office, and that's when you can start volunteering in the library. We would love to have you. Another step farther would even be to say, give a brief description of what library volunteers might be doing or ways they can help. So our checkup questions for the parent and community page are, is your page written for non-educators? Have you removed all education or school library specific jargon, acronyms such as OPAC, circulation, even Dewey Decimal, ILL, mark record? Those words do not belong on this page at all. Have you included checkout times and library policies? Especially for checkout times, that's going to be an important question that a lot of parents are probably wondering. Is that my child's book overdue, or should I not worry about it? And you can answer that by having longer checkout periods. Does your parent and community page invite parents or community members to get involved in some way by donating, volunteering, or another way to support your school library? The fourth thing then, essential, is a dedicated teacher page. Now I waited for this after the community page because really you can copy the digital library resource page if you have that capability, make a duplicate of it, and then modify that digital page. So you still want teachers to have a link just to get to the resource, but you also want to add in video tutorials, how quick 2 to 5 minute how-tos of how to use this, what is it good for, what grade levels is it good for. Answer those questions for teachers so when they're looking at a long list of resources, they know which ones are best for their students and for their curriculum. So this is basically a copy of your student resources, but just with some added extra things. So does your teacher or staff page have simple, short video tutorials? And I would say under 5 minutes is the magic spot there. And as a bonus for this section, ask a teacher especially a new classroom teacher and perhaps also a veteran teacher, to take a look at your teacher resources page and give you feedback. Now, put on some tough skin when you do this, and you want to tell them to be very honest with you. If they're having trouble figuring out what resource to use, think about how you can make that easier for them. If they can't figure out how to use a particular resource, or maybe the video tutorial isn't useful or isn't helpful to them, you might need to do a quick screencast video of how to use your version of a database or website. Next is the Library Resources and Passwords digital document. Now, my district was a Google Workspace district where I worked, and so that means that we made everything in Google Docs. So I made a Google Doc that had all of our logins, even the ones that students could just click a link to log in and they didn't need a password. I still created a username and password for that database, just in case something went wrong with that link. And so I made one digital document and I kept it up to date. And then I shared that digital document with view-only permissions. So in Google Workspace, that meant going to the sharing permissions. So there was a setting that made sure that only folks who had a Google account from the school could use this. So that meant every staff member had access to it and every student. It did mean that I got some requests to share it from parents, but I usually denied those requests and just replied to parents that they needed to use their child's login information to get access to that document. And then I linked that document everywhere I could. There's a link on the homepage. There's a link on the student resources page, on the teacher resources page. And I could post a link to that as well in Google Classroom when I was teaching online or with a blended model. So the great thing about this was I only had to change passwords in one place then. So if a link got updated or if a login broke, all I had to do was change it one place. And then it was done. It updated automatically for everyone. So if you are done with the teacher resources page and a community page and beginner level basics, then you're ready to create the login document. So first, have you created one for your digital and online resources especially? And is it easy to find on every page that has a password protected resource? That could be a database, that could be a website subscription like BrainPop. And lastly, the number 6 essential for next level features is links to your curriculum. Now again, I made this last for a reason, because all of the other things before this are more important. But this one is really what should come next and to complete your library website. There is a big push in the United States this year in 2022, when I'm recording this, to have all of our lessons published ahead of time for a whole year. And that's ridiculous, by the way. However, there's a very good reason to give an overview of what you're teaching in each grade level. This lets parents and community members know what's going on in the library, why it's important, and it tells them about the skills that we teach. Now, we have some really great resources in the United States already. We have the American Association of School Librarians National School Library Standards. And in Pennsylvania, where I live, we actually have a library model curriculum, which is free to download for anyone who's interested. I can put the link above or below wherever you see this video. And so I use that model curriculum and I make modifications and I base my curriculum off of those skills and what I'm teaching in each grade level. But I still have Google Classrooms where I'm posting things. I still have other places where I'm describing and communicating what students are learning. And that's what you should really try to do on your library website. If you're not using Google Classroom or a learning management system at your district level, then you should at least have a description on your library website of what each grade level learns and why. And this doesn't have to be long. I'm thinking about 3 or 4 sentences for each grade level. And showing community members, parents, staff, and students the importance of the library and that important learning happens there. And so that's why I think that's a very key point, even though that might be a more difficult page to create or more difficult area of your library website to develop. So the questions for your checklist are this: have you communicated a snapshot of what students in each grade level are learning when they're in library class. And this is especially important for elementary libraries, but I think even middle school and high school libraries should be describing to their community members what are students doing when they visit the library during study hall or during their lunch period or before and after school, whenever they are using the library. And how can parents and students easily access the classwork used during library classes? This is where having a learning management system such as Seesaw or Google Classroom or ClassDojo or whatever you're using is very useful. So whatever platform you decide to go with or that your district promotes, perhaps that's your best communication tool and you want to skip your library website altogether. But I think those two things, your LMS and your library website, should be working in concert to communicate what students are doing. So those are the 6 essentials. To review, they are, first, you need to have a link to your catalog and or digital resources. And second, a contact page with your photo and your contact information on it. That's your minimum viable product, your beginner level basics, all right? Next, you want to have a dedicated community and parent page. Then you need to create a teacher or faculty page that looks a lot like the online resources page, but with some extra things for teachers, like how-to videos. Fifth, you want to create a library resources digital document that's a one-stop shop for where to find logins and passwords to use paid subscriptions. And finally, sixth, you want to have a link to your library curriculum or at least provide access to your learning management system, such as Google Classroom or Seesaw or whatever you're using. Now, finally, I have 4 extra bonuses so that we get to 10 elements of your library website. I don't want any new librarians to be touching these, okay? Unless your district requires one of these items, just forget I'm saying this. Stop the video and I'll see you next time. For librarians who are veterans or who have been working at the same school for a few years, here's some expert level extras that you can add to your library website that really elevates it and really makes it look very professional. First would be project-specific pages for one class research project or one class unit. So for example, I created a whole page called 4th Grade American Revolution. And on that page, I copied over the online digital resources from the student resources page and brought those over so they were in a one-stop shop. And then I also added embedded copies of other websites such as Lauren Tarshish's I Survived website for the American Revolution. I embedded in an ebooks list from Mac and Via that showed the collection that I created of just ebooks about the American Revolution. And I tried to make them very accessible. I also even went so far as to make a picture with a button for specific ebooks that I thought would be really useful to a lot of students. So they could do one click and click over to that ebook right from the library website. So by creating that project-specific page, teachers have a one page to share. It's easy for students to access all of the things they need just for that project, and that can help them stay focused and not get distracted by the other digital resources that are awesome, but not really useful for their project. So that's expert level things. There's nothing wrong with sending students and staff members to your student resources page or your teacher resources page and saying, here's what you need, have your students click on this link. It's only one extra click. But having a project-specific page can be really useful as you teach that research unit over and over again, and you really see what the best resources are for teaching that unit. The next thing I would recommend adding is your library class schedule. Now this could be a little tricky because I know our schedules probably change every year, at least mine did. And so I would recommend either using a spreadsheet that you can embed or a Google document that you can embed onto your website, and you could make changes on there. You could even use slides and just move the current slide up to the top. If you have a teaching planner or something that also looks pretty enough, you could post that. But in the absence of that, at the very least, you could just create a PDF document of a table or a Word document even, and make that PDF document into a JPEG image. So you can use the ilovepdf.com or cutepdf.com to convert your PDF into an image and then just post that image. That can be really great if you have a cycle day schedule or even just a Monday through Friday schedule where you always have the same classes on the same day. You can post a grid that shows that so that parents can see, oh, it's day 2. Does my child have library class or not? And they can find out for themselves. And so that's better than nothing, and it doesn't have to be updated live necessarily. So that's something to consider. I think that's really a great communication tool, and that would be something you should probably put on your homepage and on the on the parent and community page as well. The next expert level extra I would recommend adding is a page to explain any special programs you have. If you run a book fair, you might want to create a whole page just about the book fair, and you only send people to it or share the link to that around book fair time. But it can be a great one-stop place to shop for books on the book fair, to shop online, to get volunteers to sign up for slots, and kind of gives a one-stop page for managing the book fair. Another example could be if you have a lunchtime book club, or there's a reading Olympics competition, or maybe you have a birthday book donation program that's very specific to your school or area. Creating a page to explain how that program works and the benefits for students and staff and community members can be really helpful. And finally, this one is probably more for secondary libraries than elementary libraries, and that's why I made it last. And that's your social media links or even embedded feeds. So wherever your students are, if your students are on Instagram, your library should be on Instagram. If your students are on TikTok, you should be on TikTok as your library. And so I think that's so important to meet students where they are. Now again, for elementary, this might not be a priority, especially since most of these platforms require that students be 13. If you're in middle school and high school though, I think as long as your district doesn't have a specific policy banning it, you should definitely have a library account where you are sharing things on a semi-regular basis so that students can stay up to date with what you're doing and you can stay connected to your students. So that's the long list of 10 things that I think you should have on your library website. 6 of them being absolute essentials and 2 of them being your minimum viable product. So my recommendation for teacher librarians who are just starting out is to start with the first 2, beginner level basics. Your first year, you're going to add those 4 more on. And then if you're a veteran librarian who already has those first 6 things done, then start thinking about the other 4 and how you would like to up-level your library website to make it really useful, to help it advocate for you. So I hope that was helpful for you. As a reminder again, there is a downloadable checklist on the blog post. I'll share the blog post and that Pennsylvania Library Model Curriculum links above or below this video, wherever you see it. So grab that checklist, and I'll see you later, friends.